Hello again. Once more, welcome back to Leopard Street. Welcome back to the cellar. Cellar of dreams, and sometimes, if I'm very, very well behaved, custard creams as well. Right, following on from what we've been doing with the new track work, what I'm going to do today is this board at the end's coming out. I'm going to get the wiring done, and we're going to get the trains running on it. So, let's see what we've got to get done. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to fix a problem. This is in the spirit of not bodging things, but fixing things. As you've seen, when I take this end board out, it catches a little here. In fact, if I slide this out of the way, that is as far as it slides. Now, if you peer down into that gap, you'll see this fouls slightly. This board needs to go this way a little bit more. So that is the first job. So what I need to do is I've got to prise this apart a little bit. It goes that way. It's relatively easy to do. I've just got to... It just needs lifting up like so. This board slides out. At this point, all I'm actually going to do is leave it like that. So that is now hung down. I'm not working on that board, it doesn't matter. So what I need to do, I'll put you on there, is this is coming off because this is what I'm going to do the wiring on. But for now, I'm just going to slide this way and rest it down as well. This. Now, when I built this, I thought that was enough. What I actually need to do is take my tenon saw, which is lurking somewhere. Here we go, tenon saw. And cut a bit more of this off. Basically, so this board can slide backwards a little bit. So that is the next job. So what I'm going to do, I shall position you briefly. This is not going to take very long. This is Thursday. So Thursday night, what I want to do, I want to get a lot of this wiring done Friday on this board. Get this board up and running, which will just be the tracks. So to do this, I need to get this cut. I'm going to do this Thursday, because if I do this Thursday, I can get it painted and it can dry overnight. Now, I don't need to remove all that much. So I'm going to guesstimate an amount to remove. That's that one. Now I'll do the same on the other side, which can be a little bit more awkward because of the way the board is, but I'll be back in a sec when these are done. Okay, both of them done. They do need a little bit of cleaning up. Before I do that, I'm going to test it. So what I need to do is lift this up, put that on there, like so. I'm going to move you around, and we're just going to quickly see how easy it is to put this board back into place. It should now be a lot easier. Line that up there. Hand under there to support that, and then slide that in. That was easier. And it lines up here, and it lines up down there. Brilliant. So again, I can just slide that out over there, lift this, slide it out like that, put it back down. Brilliant. So what I need to do now, bring you around here, and this is all I'm going to be doing tonight, so I will show you the results of this tomorrow. Just put that there. Is I just need to clean these off and paint them. I don't really need to paint them, but I'm going to. So I will catch you Friday night with the next step when we put some wires in. All right, catch you in the next bit. Oh, it's now Friday, so here we go. These are painted. Crimps, tie wraps. Somewhere around here there's a bag for cable clips. I'll find that. Don't need the paintbrush. Cutters, multimeter and such like for testing. So, some cable blocks. I'm going to find the screws for those as well. So the first job I want to stick in the mount for is this board has to go onto the workbench. Now I've cleared all the stuff off it. Now as we can see, we have a single feed. This rear track It's got several sets of droppers, three sets of droppers. There's one on the point, there's one there, there's one down there. They all need to go into a single feed. This forward section here has droppers down here somewhere, I believe. I think it's got some droppers down here. Maybe not. What it had. I'll put a 2. We'll find out when I get on the other side. Anyway, then over here there's a set. Then there's another little block over here, which is a single dropper because it's got a common, and that is literally a single piece of track along there. And then obviously they got soldered. So I've got 3 blocks. I'm going to use a 12-way terminal strip because eventually there's going to be a little track there. So that'll be 4. The turntable will be 5. There's an approach track 6. There's a thing at the back, another siding, which will be 7. Now, not all of this is going to get block detection. Simple, really. I'm going to be automating trains coming up on the main lines. The depot won't be automated, so it doesn't need block detection. But it's going to get wired as separate blocks anyway, because I can. So, I'm going to get this mounted up. We're going to flip things over. I'm not going to be firing up. I've got a mount for some relays for the point. I'm not fitting the point servo, and I'm not wiring the frog today. Simple reason for not wiring the frog is I can't find the relays. They're around here somewhere. I'll find them at some point. And I'm not fitting the point servo because I'm going to do all the actuator arms for both of these 2 boards at the same time. And it won't be a big job to do the single one on this at that point. Basically, the goal, as I've noted, is to get trains running, and there are wires hanging down which need moving. One of which is the frog wire. That won't be done today. I can't run trains under here today anyway. So I'm going to put you in a cradle. I'm going to get this moved, and then we're going to set up. I'll catch you in a mo. Okay, this is the board on the workbench. I'm just going to try and move you back a little bit so you might be able to get a little bit more of this in. Yeah. Anyway, unfortunately, I can't zoom out anymore. Let's see if I can just go back just a shade further. It'd just be useful if I could get the wire out of the way. Get the tops and the bottom in. Okay, so obviously you can see the turntable well. For reference, the bottom here is the outside of the layout. Now, the first decision, because I need to put 2 connector blocks on here. The first one is going to be, where does the power feed for this section come in? So this bit here at the top interfaces to the incline board. This end over here interfaces to the rest of the layout. Now, the board that sits under it, its power panel is sort of in this area. So I really want the power coming in around here somewhere. But I don't want it right at the edge, because firstly, that makes getting to the wires a bit awkward. See, this is where the point motor is going to go, so there'll be a point servo bracket, which I don't have any of them to hand. I'll just squeeze around here a little. Excuse me. It's one of these things, so that'll end up there. Not doing that today. I need to find somewhere to put the relay. I need to find somewhere to put the servo, and obviously all the wires have got to reach whatever I do. So I need a terminal block for wires coming in, which has got to be on this side somewhere, because this is sort of where the wires are going to come in. The idea is the power feed, which will be 6 wires, will run round here somewhere. There'll be some tie wraps here that'll hold it, and it'll just drop out of the bottom of the board down this side. And I can then put a plug and socket arrangement on that. I need to know roughly where I want to put the board controller, and I'm erring towards up here somewhere. Now, this bit is eventually going to be the goods yard on the other side of the board, obviously. Now, the goods yard is again, it's sidings. There's going to be some sensors which will be towards that end. I can put the track feeds towards that end. So I'm probably going to put the board controller over here somewhere. Can't go too near the corner, because this is where the supports that are behind me. So it's probably going to go around here somewhere. So what the reason this matters is this is about where I've got to put. I want all the terminating blocks to be around somewhere. So what I'm thinking, because the ideal is to do a lot of it under here. So I might put the power feed rails here. Now this puts them under the track. That matters because grab some XPS. My layout is plywood, XPS, cork. So that's 5mm, cork's 3mm, that's 8. 5mm worth of ply, so about 30mm thick. My maths is right, which it might not be. It is Friday. Now I'm using 16mm screws, and I've got a connector block to put in, which obviously uses a little bit of that thickness. Now I know from experience that if I put a screw through there like that, it sticks out the bottom. If I go through just ply, it sticks up a bit. Through ply and XPS, it sticks up a bit. Ply, XPS, and the cork, it doesn't. But also, if it's under track, that has another huge advantage. If it's under track, I'm not going to be drilling down through it. So I'm going to use this one as my track feed block, and I'm actually going to put it over here. I'm going to put it about there. And eventually that'll bite. And like I say, that's now under some rails. That has the other advantage that I'm not at any point going to thump my hand down onto it, compress the XPS, and then just stand there and go, oh bother, because I've just put my hand through a screw, or put a screw through my finger. Which I know from personal experience, that hurts. So right, that is going to be my block feed. Now I've got one of these little covers that can go over that. And the beauty of that is that's got numbers on it. So this is one of the reasons I painted the underside. It's a lot easier to write on the paint and not just have it blur and soak in. So what I've actually got, I'm going to put it, if I come this way up, it's a little bit easier to do. So I'm going to go block 1, block 2, and block 3 over there. These are going to be the brown wires. The blue wires will be over this side because the blue wires are going to be the common. And this is for the track. Now, that, eventually all the brown wires from this will come out and they will go to block detection boards and other bits, which will probably get mounted over here under these sort of padding bits. Doesn't exist yet. And obviously the goal here is get the layout working properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed the wires. I'm going to feed them in from the bottom, and then I'm going to take the sensor wires out that way. So brown wires come here. Blue wires are going to be this end. I'll put a little bus rail in on this side, so I've got plenty of space to common the blues. To be in practice, I've got 4 blue wires here. That's not really going to be a problem. I can stick. I'll get 2 into a crimp, and I'll put 2 crimps in that end one. Then today I can run temporary wires out. So what we need to do is I'm probably going to do the blue wires first. So I'm going to take this one, which is feed 1. It's going to go down through that hole. I want these wires so they don't wrap around each other, ideally. That's going to go through there. It can run along that side, and it's going to come up through that hole. So there we go. Now I don't want to pull this too tight. I want it to be tight enough it's going to do what I need it to do, but I don't want it to be too tight. So what I now do is grab my cutters. Work out roughly where I need that to be, which is going to be there. And incidentally, for those of you wondering what happens to all these offcuts of wire, I've got a bucket that they go in. Decent length. I mean, that's not a bad length. That's probably useful. I keep And if I can reuse, I reuse. When I can't, these don't go into the normal bin. What I do is I have a trip to the tip and they go into the metal recycling bit. So those of you who do care about the environment, I won't say it's the biggest concern in my life, but it's one of these when you can do something around recycling, why not, quite frankly? So here I can with bits of wire. So that's what happens with bits of wire. Again, that one can come round. It's going to come up to the same length, roughly. Yeah, do that. And then these two are going to get crimped. They're going to get connected up. Let's go on to here. Now I've had some various comments on how I do all the block stuff. Recent one is, how does the system like I use JMRI. I use JMRI to drive trains and control the layout. I don't use JMRI's automation features. But one of the questions was, how does JMRI cope if you haven't got it all on block detection? Well, its routing system, and we'll go into all this when I start doing the stationary, but its routing logic struggles with the automation. You need continuous blocks for the automation side to work. But as long as you've got continuous blocks, you don't have to have them all block censored. This came about with things like if you've got double slips and what have you, how do you deal with them? Because you want the double slip to be its own block. That's how you want that to be, is you want that to be its own block. But you don't necessarily have to give it a sensor. You can, and I do. I mean, the two diamonds I've got are sensors on their own, in their own right. They're their own little blocks. And when you think about it, it's logic reasons. It's a crossover. It could be part of this block or this block, depending on what you're trying to do. So you just make it its own block, and then you can sort of consider it. Right. That's going to go in there. It's not going to go in there yet. But that is going... Well, I'm going to put it in. I'm not going to tighten it up. That's going to go into there. I've now got some more blue wires. So I have this. Now, I deliberately made these wires very long. They don't need to be this long. I made them this long because when I was wiring it, I didn't know where I was going to be putting any of this stuff underneath. So this is probably a little bit wasteful in terms of wire. But, yeah, I'd rather... What I've had to do elsewhere on the layout is I've got droppers with... I made the length of about a foot, and you'll find there's lots of little versions of this terminal. So there'll be some wires going to this. They then come out and go into another block later. Here I thought, you know what? I'm just going to cut the things so they're going to be long enough. I get this wire. This is 1602. I get this in 100-meter reels. So, yeah. Right, now we get over here. Now, over here, I say there's going to be a point motor in this area. So, I need to avoid that hole. And what I've found in the past is you have wires dangling around it. They catch on the servo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a tie wrap thing. And again, this is where track is. This is the outer rail. The inner rail's up here somewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one of these over here. And then all of these wires can run through it. And it's taking a few seconds to buy. The way this is mounted, since it's a little bit wobbly, I don't want to put too much strain on it. I don't want it to break, so I'm going to avoid putting too much load on that. So this comes through here, get turned into a loop. For now, probably a fairly loose loop. It doesn't need to be bigger than that. And that means when the point servo's in, the wires will run around here. So that works. So again, blue wire through here. This one's a little bit shorter. So I'm going to have to do this one a little bit differently. The others, you see, I've routed them down under there. This one I'm not going to be able to. This one is going to have to come around like that, and that'll be that. The length of that'll be fine. So what I'm going to do now is chop that back down here to strip the end. Yeah, I could strip the end of this in its sort of final position, but why make life difficult? Says the person whose almost motto is needlessly overcomplicating things that should be quite simple. Yeah, right. That. I'm just going to trim that. I've actually just stripped a little bit. I've cut into it a little bit too far, and I've taken some of the conductors out. Yeah, that's better. I can tell basically when you're twisting it round, it's like, it feels thinner than it should be. So that is going to go through that hole. And essentially, by routing these through the holes, I'm using the wire holes I've drilled into the wood to basically act as wire holders. So it's going to keep the wires lifted. I want to keep the wires within the sort of the bounds of the lower part of this layout, the lower part of this board. As long as they're within this area here, I know they're not hanging down far enough to be a problem, is the thinking. So again, if I can get into the bag, I'll get another one of these fork terminals. So, right. So this one are going to get twisted together. And again, this is, I could give these their own little terminals, but to be honest, since it's all going to get commoned, frankly, why not put them together? So, yeah, that way around. So that can go like so. And like so. And that goes into there. Slacken that off slightly more. Only slightly. Help if I turn it the wrong way. And then the board. That's all the blue wires terminated. So now, the frog wire, incidentally. Now, on some of the other boards, the frog wire also goes into one of these blocks, and it just goes in, and then it can be taken to the relay and then brought back down. I'm probably going to wire them direct into the relay, but as I've said, not today. So the first one I need to do on these, I'm going to do feed number 3 first. It's a nice long feed. Feed 3 is a single wire. The blue rail on feed 3 is commoned to feed 2, and it's physically the same length of rail. It's not, there's a rail joiner in there. It's the same bit of track. So it didn't need another feed specifically on its own. So what I'm going to do is thread that through there. And it doesn't really matter which hole these go through over here. So it's going to come up here. And this is feed 3, which is feed 3 on its own. So it's going to go into there. So I'll just trim that. And this gets a little bit longer cut off. Because this is going into one of these terminals on its own, there isn't enough wire to grip, so I'll just bend it double. There you go. One of those. So what I'm going to do, I may already be doing it, I don't know. I don't know if I've talked to editing me later about that, is speed up. I'm going to carry on with the rest of this. I'll leave the video running because, yeah, why not? As you may gather, I'm looking for something. What I'm trying to find, so far unsuccessfully, is the bus rail strips for these connectors. I've got a short piece, which will do 2, but I need something that will connect all 3 of those together. I've got lots of this size, which is for the other ones that doesn't fit. Somewhere, I've got a whole pack of that size one. And for the life of me, I can't find it. It's around here somewhere. Down the back of this. Yeah. Yes. Anyway, I'm going to carry on trying to find this. I'll be back in a mo. Found them. Yeah. I suspected they were in the box I found them in. I just needed to. Yeah, I just needed to move a few things so I could get at them. Right. So what I need to do. Because the next step is now I'm going to take a blue wire off here, feed it through, bring it up here, and a brown wire and feed it through. I'm going to put a cable clip on so that they're in vaguely the right place. I need to be able to get into this. Yeah, this is another one of these. They come from China, but they come very, very well wrapped up. Although, to be honest, I mean, I get these off Amazon, but they come from China, because let's face it, everything comes from China. Just about the entire world has outsourced manufacturing to China. And I suspect what we're going to find at some day is it all actually goes to the same small hut somewhere in whichever province it's all done in. And it's all actually done by one bloke. Or small child, or whatever they're doing. And what we're going to find is at some point that one bloke is going to phone in sick and the entire global economy will crash, because it turns out he's actually the one who is making everything for everyone. That's my very low stake conspiracy. Anyway. So that goes in there and it'll just common all of those together. So I can tighten up 2 of them. The other one's obviously going to have a wire coming out in a sec. I'm just going to go in and just check all of these are tight. Because as I've said before, these connector terminals are brilliant, but if you don't tighten the screws, I'll loosen that one, they have a habit of vibrating loose. So, yeah. Right, so that's this board's DCC distribution bus done. For now, there's going to be tracks over here and there'll be some more tracks down the bottom. But they're all going to tie into the same thing. More there, and I'll just put more blue ones on, and I'll put a little bus rail on the blue side of it as well. So what I now need to do is put a connector. I'm going to put it on here. It's going to have to come down and go to the board that sits underneath it. So I can bring wires out, I can loop them around a bit, and then I can just put them through a tie wrap up here somewhere. And put it here. Now I've got some proper connectors to do this with, but they're going to come up to a point and they're going to come down as a lead. They'll be secured behind this somewhere. That's how I'm actually going to do this in the end. For now, however, it's going to be quite simple. It's going to be a loose tie wrap and some wires just fed through it, which are going to go down. So that one can be like this. The one down here, I am going to cut it. I'm not going to cut it too short, but I'm going to cut it because I don't want that wire hanging down. This obviously is the frog wire, which is going to go somewhere. If I'd have seen the relay, I'd have fitted it somewhere and done it, but I couldn't. So next up is another length of this. And this has got to go from like that. That'll do. And I'm going to put a fork terminal on both ends. This is because I know what it's going into on the other end needs another fork terminal, which makes life simple. Now this is a temporary fixing. The full one of these is going to require 3202, which I've got, but I'm not using it yet because I want to get it to be the. I want it to be the right length for what it's actually going to do, rather than cutting it now and it being the wrong length. So do that. That. Check that's not going to come off. Yep, that's fine. Do the same on the other end. And we're nearly at the point, nearly at the point of plugging this back in, putting the board back over, dropping these two down. I'm going to temporarily fit these two wires to the board underneath input bus, because I say this isn't on block detection at the minute. And it won't be for a while. I'm going to be running trains about under manual control on the upper deck for a while. I am then going to build the two board, all the board controllers. I've got 5 of them to do, and then I'm going to slowly start fitting it. But that is for the future, because I can run trains without doing that. So that's basically what I'm going to do. So that is going to go in there, like so. Yeah. I'm then going to route it through there, because doing that will help support it. That's that one. Do the same for the blue. It obviously needs to be slightly longer because it's got to go slightly to the other end, but that'll do nicely. Yeah, trim that. As I've noted before, there's nothing special about the colour of wires I'm using here. It's one of these, decide what standard you like. Some people use red and black. Charlie at Chadwick, I think he's got his black to the back scheme. Some do red to the rear, and so on and so forth. It's one of these things. It doesn't matter what you do, as long as you're consistent. You could do it all with a single colour of wire, and then rely on the fact you're going to have to add labels to things. But you could do that. That'd work. Real life situations, that tends to be done quite a lot, actually. The trains I used to work on, all the wiring was white. There wasn't even, this is a 110 volt, this is a 24 volt, anything like that colour scheme. There was just all white. And it was all numbered. But when you're dealing with several hundred wires going into a wiring cabinet, you ain't got enough colours to colour code them. So you just label the things. That's what they did. It worked until the labels fell off. Yeah, it turns out when you use heat shrink labeling, remembering to actually heat shrink it is a really important point. Yeah, we had no end of fun with, you'd open a cabinet up and there was an awful lot of wiring labels loose in the bottom of it. Then you'd spend a while looking at it thinking, where does that wire go? Right, that probably going to be like so. Hopefully, those two there, slightly different lengths, that'll be enough. Right, what I now need to do is clear my mess. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to be back in a minute. I'm just going to put you there. I'm going to clear this off, which is obviously all my little working area gubbins here. This bit of board is then going to get cleaned. The reason it's going to get cleaned is because it's a mess. But while the upper deck is off, this is an ideal opportunity to do a little bit of tidying up. I'm going to run the track rubber over all of this. I'm going to run the Nunu cleaner over it. And then we should be all right. So let me just get a load of this. Into here the wire can go. Yeah, I'm going to put all the spare wire over where the turntable lives. You may have noticed when I was wiring it up, I crimped one of the ends and then realised I've done that wrong and that's not the right length. Yeah, well, it's, as I said before, welcome to Leopard Street. Yes, it's firmly a problem of my own making. So, track rubber. I've been watching a few videos. Ian on Ian Zengo's channel, he's doing a year-long experiment with track cleaning. He's used some electrical contact cleaner and some electrical contact grease, which apparently works really well. So I might consider getting some of that. I haven't got any at the moment, but I might give that a bit of a due consideration. My current track cleaning regime is a Pico track rubber, which is what I'm using now. And it is done on a very ad hoc basis. As and when I start getting reliability issues. Right, I'm just going to find the Hoover, which of course is right down the other end of the layout, where it's awkward to get at, but not quite so far that I can't actually reach it. So, now, a lot of that was mess caused by the fact I've been putting a drill through a lot of things. So, next up is put this board back in. Just make sure everything's out of the way. A little bit of wood down here. I'm not sure what that's doing down here, but never mind. Yeah, right. Let me see if I can put this back in place without destroying everything. Is usually a challenge, and an interesting challenge at that. So if I have just spotted a problem. It's entirely self-inflicted. I'll put this back in and I'll show you. It's a relatively straightforward one, an easy fix. Now, I'll just fit these two wires up here. Problem is, they don't need to be up here. They need to be down there, because this is where the panel is. So I'm just going to put you there for a second. I'm going to run that out of there and that out of there. And what I rather suspect I'm about to find is the brown wire is long enough. Although the connector has just come straight off the end and just ripped itself right off. So that obviously wasn't secured properly. Come back to that one. The blue wire isn't long enough, so I'm going to have to redo the blue wire. Never mind. I'd rather find out these things now. Put the board back in place, because that would be just frustrating. And one of those. One of these, that cable clip at the top. Doesn't really matter. I noticed this when I was picking the thing up, and I sort of thought, I need to put my hand here, and then I realised, hang on a minute, that means that's in the wrong place. So I'm going to put one of those there, tie a wrap through it, and I'll then do a new blue wire, and I shall re-terminate this brown one with hopefully a connector that works. So just make sure that is going to be long enough. And it can now come through here. Like that. And because I've got these other wires in place, I can just tuck it under there, which should support it. So if I now do this, there we go. So one is, every now and again I clean the floor, and every now and again when I clean the floor, I find one of these fork terminals on the floor that's been crimped, so I know it's been on the end of a piece of wire. And then I spend a little bit of time looking around, trying to work out which bit of wire it was attached to and is now no longer attached to, because that's a fun way to spend an afternoon. So yeah, let's do that, and just that's fine. Yeah, never mind. Right, that's through there. Now do a blue wire, and the previous blue wire it's not scrap. It'll get used to something else. So that's going to go from there down there to about there. And I don't mind if these wires are a little bit over long, because these are temporary wires, as I've sort of noted before. So this end of this one, it's all good stuff. This most of this is going to be fast forwarded. Yeah, so we can get on with the important bit, which is testing it, which looks a little bit like playing trains, but as I've mentioned before, is actually a vital part of the process. And making train noises while you're doing it is important and matters. So we'll do a little bit of that, because I've got a train that will make a nice little noise. The usual suspects are the ones that are queued up to partake in the testing, which is the G5 and the Flying Scotsman. However, tomorrow, hopefully, this video is going out Saturday, so I'm going to be a little bit more work on this on Sunday, and then Sunday and Saturday evening. What I'm hoping to do is I'll have the adjacent board to this powered up. There's a few little things I need to do before I can do that one. I need to get servos calibrated slightly, because the other board has got two double slips. So I need both of the double slips have had their centering springs removed. This means they are currently a little bit floppy, which is not a problem, but it means I can't run trains over them. So there we go, that'll do. Right. Yeah, so I need to put the servos in place in order to lock the things in place. So I'm going to put you back there, where you can watch me reassemble this part of the layout. Let's have another go. Take two. So that goes lift up. Now, as I've noted previously, there is a problem with doing this. It's quite a simple problem. It's not a serious problem, but it is a problem. These boards are actually slightly too big to do what I'm trying to do with them, if that makes sense. And that can sit on there. That then goes onto there, like that. Check under there, that's not caught on anything. Good. That goes over there. Turn around. And now this should be a lot easier to fit than it was last time. So that goes there, that goes there, and then that slides in like that. Right, that's in. That is a friction fit. So to lock it, what I do, because at the moment obviously it could slide out, there's a bit of a gap here. So what I do is I lift this slightly, and then that one gets slid in, and that stops this board sliding backwards. Right, I'm now going to do a little bit, and I do mean a little bit. I can't do the continuity testing yet. I need to wire it up first. Right, let's go around this side. I'm going to wire the temporary feeds in. Right, they're actually going to hang down a little bit too much. I'm going to move the camera in a sec. Bring you around here. I'm going to get out of that stand and put you back into this stand here. If we now lower a little and lower a little more, you'll be able to see what I'm doing. Right, so these two wires are going to go into here. I've taken them out of that loop, just briefly. They're going back in it. They're dangling down a little bit. They're a bit loose. And they're coiling down slightly, which I don't want them to do. So what I'm going to do is feed them through part of the layout, through some of the wiring holes. And that can come through here. This is the brown wire. The brown wire, it's now out of the way. So this is the board F panel. So what I need to do is tap into the brown supply side, which is that one. That one. I'm going to do the same with the blue, which is a little bit shorter, but I think will still fit. So we'll find out. So we go through there, through up here. This, incidentally, when I was making these boards, is that going to fit? Yes, it is. This is why I drilled all the holes through the framing. It was so I could just run wires through them and just use them as wire holders. That one. That comes around here. That goes into there. Right. Now we can go back up to the top with a multimeter and do a little bit of continuity testing. So let's go and let's have a little play with that. Out of there again. Go back. Let's go in this way around. Why not? Now, so what I now need to do is fairly simply, really. I need to check I've got continuity on these rails where I want it to be. I should have. So put this onto continuity. If you haven't got a multimeter and you're doing model railways, get one. They're really useful. So this rail and this rail should be connected. They are. That rail and that rail. They're not, which is good. That rail, that rail, that rail, all the way around there. And every time you hear one of these little bleeps, it's telling me something is connected to what it should be. I'm just going to check the adjacent board. That's connected. They're connected. Right. That's done. So, I'm going to be back in a sec. We're going to run some trains. I've got to go and turn the layout on. Okay, moment of truth testing. Now, it's a little bit awkward to get in the camera. Over there is my G5. She's going to run round up and she's going to come up in front of the camera. I'm sort of going to run her over there a bit and test, but she'll come up in front of the camera. So let's have a little look. Hopefully this works. We shall find out in a sec. Here we come. I really can't praise this little model enough. Absolutely love it. By the fact this layout's a bit too small to need one, I'd actually even consider getting a second one. Obviously, I'd have to have that renumbered and what have you. So here we come. Crosses the board joint onto the joining bit of the incline. She approaches the new section of track. How well is this going to work? Find out. Oh, it works. It works. She's coming round. I'm going to bring her around towards the insulating section. Slow her down a little bit. As she approaches where a signal will eventually be to tell her to stop. She comes around. Yeah. She's made it. She's on the new bit. Right. Next up is Scotsman. Now she's going to come up backwards on the outer track. Change the point there. I can run coaches onto the point work. I can't run her onto the point work particularly. Simple reason being, well, apart from that, there's too much clutter in the way. Obviously, the frog on the point isn't powered yet. So I'm just going to remove a little bit of clutter so that I can bring her round nicely. Here we go. So, release, Mr. JMRI. Come here, give me the Flying Scotsman. Put her in reverse. And here she comes. Again, running a little bit slowly because she's going backwards uphill with coaches. Which it works, but it's seldom a very good idea, shall we say. So here she comes. And this really is a first. I've not tested these out beforehand. I'm hoping she's going to come around here nice and smoothly. One of the coaches always wobbles. I suspect that's the couplers. Ready on the stop bit. Now, obviously, I've had coaches on this bit before, but not the locomotive. And here we go. So, there she is. I'm well chuffed, actually. Coining a phrase there. Here we have the G5, which has just finished doing a little bit of coaling, and the Flying Scotsman on the station approach tracks. Now, obviously, they can't go any further than that join yet. I'm not going to look that way. That's tomorrow's job, tomorrow and Sunday. So, a little bit of a conclusion. What have we got? We have. I'm just going to try and put this camera down somewhere where I can see what I'm doing. As I'm going to run the trains back the other way as we talk about this. I've now powered up the track on another part of the layout. And the Scotsman down on her way. Off she goes. I'm really pleased with that. That's gone faster than I was expecting and has worked out quite nicely. I do need to find the relay so I can get that point hooked up, because obviously I'm not going to be able to run any further until that point is hooked up. However, less of a problem than it could be. But this little bit here is working, so we have progress. And we'll send the G5 back on her way as well. Off she goes. Now, this, as I said before, this will be the approach track, which is why she's facing this way, and obviously the other is the departure, which is why the Scotsman is facing the way she is. Now, what I'm able to do after this weekend, so this is the Saturday video going out, I'm going to do another one, which we're going out Tuesday. That was board F. The next one is board lowercase g, which is the one where the slips and the points have gone in. So we shall see. I've also had some comments. Kelly, I know you favour manual operation. I can't do it entirely manually on here. The springs have gone from the slips because they had to before they went in. So they are going to be servo locked. However, I will be operating the station area manually, as it were, early on. Because, I'll just bring you around here. This is what JMRI thinks my layout's like. So what I need to do is make this window a little bit taller. And I've got to bring these tracks around and draw the station in. I'm also going to put the rest of these loop lines in. The reason they're not in, they are not on the block detection. The JMRI doesn't know this track exists. These rails here are thin lines because they're not block detection. That's going to apply to all of this around here too. I'm not going to put it in until I'm in a position to put the point motors in, because frankly I don't need it until then. So that's that. Anyway, that's been this video. Thank you very much for watching, as I've rambled, wittered on, but got another board powered up. A bit of track lifting there. Yeah, you can probably do the dab of glue under that. I might do that in a minute. Slide a little bit of glue under that and put a bit of weight on it overnight. Yeah, next video coming up. Join me. Should be Tuesday for all of this powering up. And at that point, while I won't be able to switch the points, I've got two really long sidings. I mean, they go from all the way around there where the signal box is, all the way round up here, and they'll go all the way to the end down there. There's two sidings. Anyway, that's it for this one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll catch you all in the next one. Likes, comments, shares, subscriptions, more than welcome. Meantime, this has been Leopard Street. Thank you very much, and goodbye.